Alright, back with some modern. On the left side we have Ricardo. We have seen Ricardo a couple times in Legacy. I don't think we've seen him in modern yet. So he's definitely more of a Legacy player, but modern's fine. Modern's fine. He likes to play these blue-based artifact decks, which we see him playing blue-black Asmor. Now, unfortunately, there were some production issues where there is a bit of a lighting issue. I do apologize for that. We'll do our best. Now we have Polluted Delta and a Watery Grave coming out for Ricardo here. And not sure what that was. Again, my apologies. On the other side, we have Yeret. We haven't seen Yeret yet, but he hasn't been playing all too much Modern recently. Just getting back into it. He is playing Grixis Arcanist. Now, that's not a very established archetype in Modern. It mostly involves Dreadhorde Arcanist and just a bunch of low curve I want to say controlling, maybe more mid-range cards. Think Discard, think Lightning Bolt. It is playing several copies of Unearth, that kind of stuff. So we'll have to see how this match goes. Now we have Steam Vents and a Blackleaf Cliffs from Yeret. He's playing a Dreadhorde Arcanist for his turn 2. He's not really doing much yet, but that will come in a bit. We have Ricardo cycling Street Wraith and I believe Dark Slick Shores, kind of a lesser played card these days. Snuff Out, which will discard Oval Chase Daredevil. Now, if you haven't been keeping up with Modern, that's a lot of new cards. Snuff Out, I believe, is 1 black, and then as an additional cost, you either sacrifice a creature or you discard a card and then just destroy something. Really powerful effect, but definitely a cost behind it. The Oval Chase Daredevil in this deck is used to create food tokens. As not sure what that was. I even saw the art and I still don't know for sure what that was. But yeah, the Daredevil is discarded to the cookbook, which then makes a food, which then, being an artifact, brings back the Daredevil. We have Inquisition coming out from Yeret, revealing Thought Monitor, which is a 7 mana card, and Oval Chase Daredevil, which it's not really very useful to discard. Oh yeah, the Daredevil is 4 mana. That is true. Completely forgot about that. Now, let me pick up one of those kitchen decks and see. I think the Seasoned Pyromancer was actually countered using Metallic Rebuke. I'm not sure about that, but it like looking at the art, I think that's what happened. I'm also pretty sure there's a cookbook on the field. No, is there a cookbook? No. Ricardo looked at the top of his deck. It's a Wishing Well, of course. Right, modern staple Wishing Well. Man, I haven't seen that card in a while. Also not doing a great job keeping up with life totals. Also, doesn't help that Yeret is not actually keeping track of his life total on the field. Now, I do always ask this of players, but sometimes I forget, and then they forget, and then we all forget, and here we are. believe Yerrit fetched once. I don't think it's gonna matter very much, because when Ricardo starts swinging, he usually starts swinging quite hard. With cards like Urza Saga making a bunch of constructs, which we do see in his hand. Of course, the namesake card of the deck, which is Asmor, and that's all you're getting from me. That is looking like an Asmor, yes. After cycling Street Wraith. It's gonna get a cookbook. And cookbook at this point, I mean, if you've been playing Modern, it's a pretty known card at this point. But if you haven't, then it's always good to have a second read. So there is now an Asmor on the field. There's now an Urza Saga on the field, and that's going to put some definite pressure on Yerrit here, who is presenting some threats, but they're not the best threats. We have the book coming out from Ricardo here, which is gonna have him pick up the Daredevil, and at this point, Ricardo is looking to possibly pressure Yerrit out of the game here. Now, Yerrit's deck is a more creature-based deck. He will have to attack to actually get anything done in this game. So if Asmor can get a couple of food on the field and then destroy Yerrit's board, that could be very dangerous. Though Yerrit does have some number of ways of getting back into this game. Which does in fact include an Earth. I believe I saw Ancestral Vision. Yeah, I do see Ancestral Vision. And Unearth being cast from Yerrit here. Now, I imagine... No, he's not targeting Seasoned Pyromancer. I was thinking he could target Seasoned Pyromancer. Bring back... discard the Ancestral Vision. And then use Dreadhorde Arcanist to cast it back. What the... I don't know if you heard that, but... That was a motorcycle, but that was not a normal motorcycle. I have no idea what that was. Not a clue. Good lord, what was that? Okay. So... Yerrit... right. He's gonna cast both of his Unearths. So that he empties his hand, he gets a token off the Seasoned Pyromancer, and he does discard the Ancestral Vision, which means that if he attacks with the Dreadhorde Arcanist now, he does draw 3 cards. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Now, we are also joined by a young Pyromancer. Dreadhorde Arcanist attacking, gonna draw Yerrit 3 cards, and despite Ricardo starting to get off the ground, it seems Yerrit managed to get back in this. I think, yeah, that's a Kolaghan's command. That's going to be incredibly dangerous here. So we have Asmor blocking the Seasoned Pyromancer. And then Ricardo going to 10. Again, worth noting, Seasoned Pyromancer can be exiled from the graveyard to just make 2 elementals, if that becomes relevant. Yet it could also just play Unearth again. And that's pretty much the strength of this Grixis Arcanist deck. It's just your threats keep coming back and you keep drawing cards. So the consistency is pretty high. Wait, is that 2 Kolaghan's command? I think that's 2 Kolaghan's command. Oh, that could be interesting. We see Ricardo making a second food, and I would assume that means he's going to kill a creature. But maybe not. Gonna put a construct into play of the Ursa Saga. But yeah, my exposure to the blue black Asmor variants has been somewhat medium. Like I've seen it a couple of times, but I've just never been impressed with it. We see Thought Monitor coming out from Ricardo here. Gonna draw 2 cards. Yeah, I know it's putting up work. Absolutely, it's putting up lists. It's winning games. I've just never seen it actually do that much. Now, to be fair, whenever I've seen it, it's from my own point of view playing 5-color Niv to Light. Now, I'm not sure, but I think that matchup is supposed to be quite heavily favored for the Niv deck. It's not unwinnable for Asmor, but definitely not easy. Just a lot of removal, a lot of relevant cards. If Niv has a lot of relevant cards in the matchup, then Niv becomes a very dangerous deck to deal with. Against Grixis, we see Yera just being able to just keep playing cards, keep dropping threats, drawing cards. As we see a second Young Pyromancer coming out. Now, again, as a reminder, Ricardo has a construct, which I believe is a 4/4 right now. He has Asmor, which is a 3/3, and he has the Thought Monitor, which is a 2/2 with flying. We see Ricardo sacrificing 2 food to shoot one of the Young Pyromancers. That's probably a pretty heads-up play here. Because, like, the way you lose this is by 2 Young Pyromancers just going around you. Like, there's no amount of elementals you can block at some point where you win this. That being said, this might still be a pretty rough game for Ricardo here, as Kolaghan's command is coming out. Shocking the Thought Monitor and shattering the construct. Just wipe the board. Just get out of here. Clear blockers, turn everything sideways. And sideways the things are going. Now, looking at Yerit's graveyard, he has a number of cards he could get here. I see Inquisition, I see Unearth. I think Inquisition is indeed one of the cards he's going for, and it looks like Unearth is as well. Getting back to Young Pyromancer and just reminding us why this card is banned in Legacy right now. There's been a lot of discussion about, oh well, maybe Dreadhorde Arcanist wasn't the card that made Delver the powerhouse that it was. And I'm like, it's not the only card, but it was definitely a part of it, I think. Definitely think it was a part of it, but not the whole story, and we're seeing that now, but that's a story for a different time. One of the Arcanists gets blocked by Asmor. And then we have 6 damage coming through, and I think this might be lights out for Ricardo here. He can make a food, he can block a creature, but I think he's just dead on board. He can also still make a construct, but 3 Daredevils, and a Pithing Needle, and whatever the draw was. Mishra's Bauble, yeah, no, it's not gonna cut it. Seems Ricardo is gonna make a Construct, which is a 2/2 right now. The Bauble would turn it into a 3/3, then the Pithing Needle would turn it into a 4/4. He can make a food, it becomes a 5/5. I think Ricardo is forgetting that his card has more text. Yeah, he is. Yet it's reminding him of it. Alright, so Ricardo's gonna find something. Again, I'm not sure what he could find here. Like, what gets him out of this binding? Shadow Spear, maybe? Oh, Shadow Spear could be a thing, giving him lifelink. I mean, yet it still has just so much going on. Gonna find a cookbook? Maybe Ricardo isn't playing Shadow Spear? It's possible. I'm looking at a deck list from a bit further into the format. This game was played a couple weeks ago. 2.5 weeks ago, to be exact. So it's possible he's not playing the Shadow Spear, but that would definitely be something worth getting here. On the other hand, 2 food is not the worst. The construct is definitely getting bigger, but also another reminder: yet its life total is not at 19. Probably, it's most likely to be a bit lower, but not by much. Like I cannot imagine it's much lower than 19. Ricardo's life total is definitely at 4, though. That's for sure. Yeah. I'm pretty sure we're going to game 2 here pretty soon. Just as I say it, we're going to game 2. Alright, game 2, we got both players keeping 7. Ricardo on the play here, gonna crack Polluted Delta. Let's see if we can keep those life totals going. Shocking a Watery Grave. Now, some of you may have started watching this video and then wondered, is he going to address it? Ricardo plays a cookbook, and I think he passes the turn here. So, am I going to address it? And I would say, I don't know what you're talking about. I see nothing wrong with Ricardo's deck name. That's exactly what it's supposed to be, right? I have no idea what you're talking about. We have Bloodstained Mire coming out from Yedit here, and a Blood Crypt. I'm not sure if that is tapped or not. Okay, yeah, that is going to be a shock into Thoughtseize. That's a lot of life just going right there. We have 2 Fatal Push, we have 2 Asmor, and a Thought Monitor. It's gonna take one of the Asmors. Probably a pretty good call. Well, maybe, I'm not sure. Because it's kind of hard to play both of them at the same time. Not impossible. If Ricardo draws Street Wraith and the Street Wraith then cycles into a black or a red source, then yeah, that is 6 power on the board. We have Cookbook going to discard Thought Monitor, which then enables Asmor being played. Asmor then finding another Cookbook. And just this card finds that card. That card finds this card. This is probably the single most Yu-Gi-Oh deck I've ever seen since I started playing this game. For those of you who've watched me for a bit, maybe you know me, I used to play a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh, not so much recently. But yeah, one of the defining things about that game is just the amount of searching and cards that replace themselves, because there are no mana costs, so cards in hand are the resource, and when everything replaces itself, everything is some sort of tutor value engine. Your deck is constantly being shuffled and looked through, and looking at this Asmor deck, it kind of reminds me of that a bit. Now we saw Yeret bolting Asmor, and then Ricardo playing Emery in his turn. Couple of artifacts, I think. Again, kind of hard to see. My apologies for that. But regardless, there are already some relevant artifacts in the graveyard. I think one of them is a cookbook. We have the thought monitor from before, so there are some pretty good targets. Actually, what's the exact text on Emery? Yeah, just any artifact and you can cast it. So the thought monitor is definitely a possibility for reanimating here. Yet it's going to play a Dreadhorde Arcanist. Again, there's a Thoughtseize and a Lightning Bolt in Yet's graveyard. We have Ancestral Vision on Suspend. I missed that before. But it's gonna be a while before that actually becomes a thing. Ricardo gonna discard a cookbook to a cookbook. Then we're gonna eat the cookbook. We are now certified bookworms. Let's see. Cookbook gonna discard the Daredevil. Start making food every turn. Yeah, the combination of Cookbook with Oval Chase Daredevil is just so good. Just so free. And then it puts Asmor in play, then Asmor gets another cookbook, so you can keep discarding. It's like I'm a value player. I love value. I play 5-color Niv. You know I love value. And just looking at this, just it gets my blood pumping. We have Springleaf Drum here for Ricardo, which is gonna cast Fatal Push, getting rid of the Dreadhorde Arcanist. The Vision is on 3 still, I believe. Thought Scour. Yet is going to target himself with that. Inquisition, Surgical, and then a Serum Visions is the draw. But it seems Yeret is kind of stuck on land, and Ricardo is just able to keep doing what he does. Though Ricardo is also stuck on land. That is worth mentioning. But Ricardo is doing a lot more right now. Gonna make another food. Now, Emery going to cast the Thought Monitor. And while Ricardo is the person doing all the playing here, yet it does still have that Ancestral, which means at some point he is most likely gonna draw some gas. Absolutely. When that time comes, Rico is still in a pretty good position, I would say. We see Ursa's Saga, land, And another Emery. Ursa Saga is a pretty nice draw here. The Ursa Saga is probably the thing that's going to get Ricardo game 2 here. Draws and passes. This is probably Ricardo's time to shine. Saga going up to 2. Does have the mana in hand to start making constructs. Whether or not he decides to, we'll have to see. I would imagine, right? Just play the land. Maybe get in for some free damage. No, we are first casting second cookbook. Okay. Interesting. Oh yeah, of course, Ricardo has the Springleaf Drum, so he can still make a construct. I think he wants to. I think the construct is big enough at this point where it's going to be an actual clock, an actual threat. And attacking this turn is probably not really going to change that clock all that much. I mean, he can get a free 2 off the... No, he can't get a free 2 off the Thought Monitor, because that means he doesn't have mana anymore. Yeah, no, the construct is definitely going to be worth more here than any kind of attack is going to be. Now, it seems Yeret did Thought Scour himself into some land. He also Thought Scoured himself into an Ancestral, and the other one is triggering. It's another land, and a young Pyromancer. Draw for turn is going to be Thoughtseize, which... he could decide to fire to get rid of the Fatal Push or whatever else Ricardo has in hand. But definitely Yeret wants to start doing something now. Ricardo has a clock on the field. Sorta, indirectly on the field. He's gonna make a construct. Young Pyromancer coming out. Probably going to be followed up by Thoughtseize. Yes. Yes, sir. Now, while I do agree with the play, Thoughtseize is a little bit dangerous. Gonna take Fatal Push. Yeah, absolutely. Ricardo cannot fire this Fatal Push if he still wants the construct, so absolutely just let it go. And then next turn, I think Yeret is signaling that he has 7 cards in hand. Yeah, if Yeret still has turns, he has time to just start slamming things. I think I saw, yeah, I see Snapcaster Mage there. There are 2 lands at least. I think there's 3 lands actually. So it's not all gas, but there's a lot of it. Yeret could still stabilize in this position. And that's kinda why I haven't been the biggest fan of the food decks. It feels like, despite you doing a lot, there's always a way around it. Like, always. I think that was a Nile Spellbomb from Ricardo. That's probably a... Yeah, that's a sideboard card that's going to put some pressure on Yeret's graveyard. Now, that's not the thing he's doing at the moment, but it might be in the future. Regardless, it's an artifact. It's going to pump the construct, and at this point, if you're struggling to see what is actually on the field, I don't blame you. Let's see if I can do a quick summary. So we have 4 food. We have Emery. We have, I believe, 3 cookbooks. We have a Thought Monitor, a Springleaf Drum, and the 2 constructs. if I am correct. The only thing I'm thinking of is whether or not it's actually 3 cookbooks, or maybe it's 2 cookbooks and... Oh no, it's 2 cookbooks and the Nile spell bomb. See? Yeah, no, we got this. We got this. We got there. Yeah, I need to be more... Wait, no. Yeah, no, it's a spell book. Sorry, a different spell book. Like, am I... No, it's not even a spell book, it's a spell bomb. Oh wait, they're both spell bombs. Too many spell books, spell bombs. You know what I mean. Okay, he is gonna play the Pyrite spell bomb, and he has the Nile spell bomb. So yeah, and yet it realizes, yeah, no, this at this point it's not happening, and we're going to game 3. Let's see if we can pull out of game 3 before time is called. Game 3. Yet unfortunately on the mulligan to 6, but he has an opener with an Ancestral Vision, so that's probably not going to be too bad for him if he can manage to get through the initial turns. We have Bauble and Polluted Delta into Watery Grave. Yeah, I will say the blue-black Asmor deck is pretty consistent. Okay, I have no idea. My apologies. That is... Wow, that is bright. That is bright. Good lord. Also, for some reason, this keeps happening with matches that Ricardo's playing. Because the last time it happened, we had, I believe, 3 rounds... No, we had 4 rounds of Ricardo on coverage. The past few weeks, we have been playing a round robin. And as of this week, I believe, we are in... back using Event Link, which means that the following rounds are going to be based on just pairings. So we are going to be looking at table 1 for these games. Actually, now that I think about it, some live editing here. We get a tap land from Ricardo. Just putting it in right now. Now, some of you might be wondering, like, what's happening? I edit these matches on the fly. A lot of these videos you'll see from other creators. This kind of post-processing is done in whatever, just some video editing software, like Vegas Pro or something like that, or Adobe. I want to say After Effects, but I mean, you know what I mean. I chose to do these in OBS. For those of you who don't know what OBS is, it is a open source broadcasting software that is normally used for things like streaming on Twitch. I've decided to use it to record these matches. It's just what I feel works best for me. It's what I'm used to using, and it's served me well. So we saw Emery coming out for Ricardo here. We saw a cookbook being tapped to discard 1 Asmor to cast the second one, it seems. And we saw the cookbook being used to discard a engineered explosives, which gave Ricardo the second food to use to kill the young pyromancer. Unfortunately, the young pyromancer is down. It did make one elemental, and now we have seasoned pyromancer discarding 2 cards. Looks like Yerit's draws weren't exactly the best. And the elemental can't attack because Emry is a 1/2, I believe. Yes, it is. Ricardo finding a land, cracking the land. Probably just thinning his deck at this point. One card in hand. And that is a Urza. Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I like that. Gonna get a construct. Gonna cast a bauble. Now there is. Okay, the bauble is immediately sacrificed. This means the construct is a 2/2 for now. Always the potential of it getting bigger. But that Urza is very likely to start doing some work here. If Ricardo can get some food going. So Ricardo draws off the bauble, then Yetta draws off the ancestral and a draw for the turn. And I think that's a 2 lands, a young pyromancer. There is a dread or arcanist there. And yeah, just a lot going on at the same time here. Now, Ricardo opted not to attack last turn because he could have. Yet it could have blocked with the Seasoned Pyromancer and the Elemental token, which I think would have been a very worthwhile trade for Yedit here. So, yeah, definitely not what Ricardo wants to be doing here. Yedit thinking of cracking a fetch, play something. I don't think he has to just yet, but he could. He definitely could. He is going to crack it. Not sure what Yedit is thinking here. I think he kind of wants to do something this turn. He's just trying to figure out what that is. Ricardo reading Asmor. Yedit just gonna deploy 2 threats and say go. Alright, interesting. That is the Oval Chase Daredevil for Ricardo. That's really good for him. That's really good, because now he can start making a food every turn and then use that to make mana, to grow the construct. He could start thinking about maybe rolling the dice on Urza a couple times eventually. Just that Daredevil opens up a whole world of opportunity. Apparently, Ricardo's at 12 here. I'm not sure why. Maybe a bit of miscommunication during the early turns there. There were a couple of instances where Ricardo lost a bunch of life, so maybe he missed one of those triggers. And it was caught by Yerit. Not sure. Engineered explosives for 2 being cast here. Most likely, Ricardo's thinking about killing not just the young Pyromancer, but the Dreadhorde Arcanist as well. There is still an Ancestral Vision in Yerit's graveyard, so that is probably a very heads-up play here. Does look like that's what Ricardo decides to do here. And then swing for a bunch. We got Asmor, that's 3. We got Urza, that's 4. And then we got the Construct, which is 1, 2, 3, I believe. So Asmor getting blocked. And I think the Construct got blocked. I think, which means Urza gets in for 1. At least I imagine that's how it went. No, actually, I think he double blocked. Yeah, he double blocked the Asmor, and then Ricardo made a food in response, shot one of the blockers, killed the other one. So, in fact, I think Yerit is at 11. I think that was a mistake from Yerit. Which, I mean, it happens. There's so much happening on Ricardo's side of the board that it's easy for something to just slip through the cracks. We have a bauble coming out off the Emry, land being played, and his swing with everything. Snapcaster Mage coming in here in response. We'll have to see. That's probably looks like Fatal Push. I would imagine Fatal Push killing the Construct. No. Blocking the Construct? Yerit fetching for for a blood crit? Really? Really, you're in this position and you decide to fetch for a blood crit. Interesting. It's gonna push the Urza, block the Construct, and still take 3. Okay, maybe I'm making an assumption here, but oh, doesn't he have a swamp anymore? That might be what's happening. Maybe Yerit only plays the one swamp that is now in his graveyard. If that's the case, then ooh, that's a beating. That's a beating. Oh. And I think that's gonna be game, right? Gonna get back the bauble. Gonna bolt. And yeah, that's gonna be game. GG's to Ricardo, taking Grixis Arcanist 2-1.